Hi, I'm Lori Steele,
I'm Sally Gentry,
and we're with the Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency, or LOPA.
and we work together on the Gifted Life podcast. We hope you'll download it.
Yes, we do. We also have the opportunity to work with Louisiana's amazing volunteers.
One of the things we hear most often from families and from recipients is writing that first letter. It's a very difficult first step to take.
And we understand that, and we hope this short video will help you through some of those initial rough spots.
And for most donor families who are grieving the loss of their loved one, and for the recipients who are celebrating a second opportunity at life, we now have some resources we'd like to share with you. Some of you may have already received this, donor families from our family services, or you can look at this on our website too. We have a few tips for you. Write your letter when you're ready. That's the most important thing, because then you can really share a little bit more about yourself. And about that, we want you to include details, lots of details if you can, about your loved one or about you as a recipient, your families, different hobbies, interests, things you enjoy. And finally, please don't strive for perfection. Your letter, when you write it, will come from the heart.
Great tips. The first step, or in this case, the first sentence, is usually the hardest.
Yes, it is, and we want to help you through that. Terry Walsh joins us today. She's a donor mother. Terry, nice to have you here. I'm glad you were able to make it.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here.
Would you please tell us more about Matt and a little bit about his story?
Okay, well, Matt was in a car accident in 2006 and had some serious brain injury, so would not survive that, so we donated his organs. He was 21 years old. He was a student at Southeastern University, and we had talked about it in the past because I'm a nurse, and I took care of patients that had the same type of injury and that were waiting for organ procurement. So I had talked to both of my children about it. So he did have the little heart on his driver's license. So it was an easy decision, and donated his organs, and that was something that I think was healing for me, for sure, because and healing for my entire family, because it just
It's the right thing to do.
well, it was the right thing to do, and I felt like if I couldn't have him, then I wanted him to still be around and and to help others. So
That's wonderful.
yeah.
Well, when did you decide then to write to the recipients?
I think it was probably about a year after his death. I just had I debated in my mind whether to do it or not, and it's a fear that that happens. Like, am I going to be upsetting this family? Am I going to be, it was just a lot of fear that went with it, and I guess it kept gnawing at me, and so one day I finally said, I'm going to write all of his recipients. So I wrote 3 individual letters, and I gave them, sent them to LOPA.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess about 6 months later, I heard from Matt's heart recipient family, and they were a family from Abbeville, Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Raymond Stelly was the recipient's name, and his wife was Deborah. And she wrote the letter, and I was just kind of in shock when I read it. I was like, oh my God. And it was such an impactful letter because she talked about how he was almost at death's door, and that had he not gotten the transplant when he did, that he would not have survived. And she told me about his, their family. She had 8 kids and numerous grandkids.
Oh, wow.
So it hit me because I was like, what an impact that was. You don't really realize until you see what impact it does have.
Yeah, and it hadn't been for Matt, he may not have been able to survive.
You're right, because he'd been waiting, I think, for a couple of years. But so I was so happy that she did decide to reach out, and she was very hesitant too. She did stay, and I think at that time we decided we were going to talk to each other by phone, and so I think she called me, or I don't remember which way that was, but we decided to meet a few weeks after, and it ended up being on Valentine's Day, which I thought, okay, this is the perfect day for the heart recipient, and we met at Ochsner, where he got his transplant. So, and it was very emotional and very neat.
So that helped in the healing process too for you.
Yeah.
And your family.
Yeah. Because I knew that, and then hearing the story that how sick he was, and then I'm like, okay, well, Matt, definitely made an impact and affected the whole family, And then the Lopa picnic was April, so we agreed to meet there with all of our families, and so that was tremendous.
Did you hear from the other recipients? Or?
I never did, and I think I followed up with you a couple of times. Did you give them my letter, did you? And you said yes, but sometimes they may not, may not be ready, or, so I didn't write subsequent letters, but, I just figured they were not ready or didn't want to.
Yeah. If you had not heard from any of the recipients, how would you have felt?
Well, I think I would have been very disappointed, because once I had made up my mind to do it, I was hoping that they would. And I think maybe I would have just been a little bit more persistent with, giving them some time, but then maybe writing another letter. Just hoping, because I think that is part of the, and I don't want to say closure, because it's not really closure, but it's just a part that really helps, knowing that his death was not in vain, even though I do know that he did save lives, but it just brings it all more to life. So.
And sometimes there are folks that just cannot write for whatever the reason, but for you saying that this was something that was still good for you, makes a lot of difference.
And I do respect that, and I may have, had I not heard from any, I maybe would have written again and pursued a little bit more. But at some point, I think when you decide to write, you have to ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen if I don't hear from them? And the worst that can happen is that you don't hear from them. I mean, that your family member has done well, in donating organs, and that's part of the healing process. But there's going to be people that don't feel comfortable in doing it. There's going to be those who just are afraid. I know there's a lot of guilt that goes from the recipient's side. And I feel that at some point in time, if they are ready to do it, they will, because I think Facebook has a page that people try to locate recipients or donors, and so, that may be an outlet that they may decide to take, but, I have to respect that.
And I think, too, that from working with donor families for a number of years, the thing about writing does give you the opportunity to share about your loved one, and more particularly about what Matt liked to do, his hobbies, his interests, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think that's why the Facebook page is really good, because writing nowadays is not as like it used to be. Now there's so many other ways to contact family, or to I do think about him all the time. The little girl that got his kidney was 12 years old, so I think about how old she would be now, and what she would be doing, and but I respect that they didn't want to, or maybe at some time it'll surprise me and contact me. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Terry. We really appreciate you sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
And now we're going to hear from a recipient side of what it's like to write, and I'm very proud to introduce Emily Traylor, who is a heart recipient. Hey, Emily.
Hi, Sally. Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Great, great. I'm doing well also. So let's talk about you writing to your donor's family.
So, writing to your donor's family is a very emotional process. Just the best thing for me, I didn't put a time limit on myself. I wrote a little bit at a time on the days I felt that I could. Got through many letters crying, but the final one, I knew when it was time, and I mailed it right before my 2-year mark for heart transplant. So it was very special, very relieving to know, that's for me, that was the next step in the healing process.
Right.
So it felt really good, and to finally be able to let the donor family know how much that I truly appreciated such a selfless gift. Finding the words was very difficult because you just feel like there aren't enough words that are adequate to express how thankful you truly are.
Really hard to say thank you.
Yes, I mean, how do you thank someone for the gift of life? There just aren't enough words. But you just spill your heart out, and
So have you heard back from the family yet, or?
no, I have not heard back, but it's okay. I just wanted them to know how thankful and grateful that I am to receive such a selfless gift from their loved one.
Good for you.
So if I hear back, that is fantastic. I hope that I do.
Yeah.
But if not, that's okay too. I understand. I really understand.
Do you think that part of your hesitation was some concern that the family may or may not respond to you?
Honestly, maybe a little bit, but not, more it was just emotional for me because I'm grieving the loss of my donor as well and grieving for their family, and it's hard. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
But you just have to work through it, and with every letter I found that it got a little bit easier, believe it or not. Just getting it all down on paper and just getting everything out, that helps so much. And not giving myself a timeline and not trying to make it perfect, but perfect for the donor family.
Right. Well, that's wonderful. I am so glad you were able to do so. Hopefully you'll hear from the family, and thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you for having me.
Sure.
I am so glad they decided to share. I know I learned a lot.
I know, and to hear them talk about it makes all the difference in the world. We do have resources available, but sometimes, you can look at a piece of paper, but when you hear someone that's actually experienced it, it really makes a big difference. And we hope that this will encourage others to take that first step in writing their letter.
Just know there is a strong support system for you here at LOPA. We certainly appreciate you watching.
Do you have expertise or experience that might be of value to donor families and you're willing to share? Contact us for an exciting opportunity at Donor Family Care.